Welcome back to another exciting look at the new speed dueling format. This is the other starter deck, and this one comes with 3 decks as well. And this is not turbo dueling. We always get comments in these speed dueling videos that are things like, oh, card games on motorcycles. That's actually not what this is. That was in 5Ds. It was called turbo dueling. This is speed dueling, so it's a little bit different. And obviously, if you don't know what speed dueling is, it's a new format that Konami is supporting, and that's kind of cool. Even if it's not going to be like the next big thing, even if it's not going to be like the main game, it is cool if they're supporting like side formats. I know I've talked about how I like Battle Pack format a lot, and basically it's just Duel Links rules in real life. But these are the Destiny Masters starter decks. This is Pegasus, Yugimoto, and this character that no one that opens this product can pronounce because they don't watch the anime, including myself, by the way. And here's the deal about these ones, right? So these ones right here, if you're just using, and when I'm making this video, I'll still keep saying this until they post it, the YCS Chicago FAQ is not actually updated, and that matters because we don't actually know if the Speed Duel side event at YCS Chicago will be constructed or sealed. If it's sealed, all 3 of these decks are terrible. Like, they're just garbage, basically, which if it sucks saying that these 3 decks are completely unplayable, but that's only if it's sealed. If it's a constructed event, which means that you can use your own cards from the speed dueling format, then the decks in here are actually pretty interesting and kind of cool, because if you have 3 copies of some of the cards and you have 3 copies of some of the important combo pieces, then you actually can make these decks kind of viable. We'll kind of talk about that as we go along here. So as always, when you open here, you got some fun stuff. So you got these, there we go. Kind of tough. So we have the 3 speed dueling starter decks themselves. So it's kind of Konami's way of making us hopefully not have to pay $10 for 20 cards. That'd be ridiculous. So they actually just put a whole bunch of them in one starter deck package, which is kind of cool. Then you have the promo variant cards. Now the promo variant cards in the last one are very good. You have Amazoness Village, you have Champions Vigilance, and I believe the last one was Fusion Gate. These ones aren't as good, but they are pretty good. So we have, first off, Shard of Greed. There is not a ton of back removal in this format. There's like Wild Tornado, which might be like the most commonly played stuff, and then the Kaiba deck has the dragons that are Stamping Destruction or whatever. So maybe this card will be good, probably not though. And then we have the Golden Apples, probably a little bit too slow unless I'm misrepresenting this card, but more importantly, you have Mimicat, and this is kind of what breaks the Pegasus deck, I think. So if you control a Toon World and a Toon Monster, target 1 card in your opponent's graveyard. If it is a monster, special summon it to your field, or if it's a spell trap, set it to your side of field. This is what makes the Pegasus deck really good in the constructed version of this particular format, but because these ultra rares, when you, because notice how they're not in the actual starter decks, the reason they do that is that when they do the speed dueling for sealed, you just get these decks. That's all you get. So if you're just getting these, you don't actually get these cards. You don't get Mimicat. It's not, so that really lowers the power level of the Pegasus deck if you're not playing with these ultra rare variant cards. So these are actually very important. They kind of change the format a lot. In this case, they're making one of the decks go from unplayable to very playable just with a 1 card, because when you're playing with a 20 card deck and you have a skill that starts you with Toon World, you can always activate this card, and it's really, really good. So those are the variant cards here. We'll just kind of put those off to the side, and then we'll take a look at these decks. So the first one I want to look at is the Pegasus one. You'll kind of see what I mean by that. This deck isn't that good unless you actually buy other cards to go with it. And I mean, that's not that bad. These aren't that expensive to get. You could buy, I mean, if you bought, I guess it'd be $60 worth. Like, instead of buying like 2 starter decks for $60, like 3 copies of each of them, you're basically buying 6 starter decks and you're buying 3 copies of them for $60. So I guess if you look at it that way, it's a good deal. Obviously, though, these are speed dueling cards, so you can't really use them for anything else. It is worth mentioning, I got asked a question in a couple comments in the last video that we did with these. So you can use speed duel cards, not the skill cards, but the normal speed duel cards like these ones. You can use those ones in TCG events. You can't use TCG cards even if they're in the speed dueling format. In speed dueling, the cards that you use have to have this little watermark at the bottom that says speed duel. I don't know why they're doing that. I mean, a lot of people are just saying like, oh, so that you have to like rebuy cards you already own. I think it's actually just because they don't want to have everyone have to like remember which cards are in speed dueling format, so it just makes it a little bit easier. But anyway, The skill cards we have, it's a Toon World. It places Toon World on the board. Mind Scan, which is I think the exact same thing as it is in Duel Links. And then Millennium Eye. At the start of the duel, look at your opponent's opening hand. You may choose to have that player shuffle their card into their deck and draw a new hand. These skills are like okay. Millennium Eye is pretty cool, but I think that it's Toon World's like the way to go with this particular situation, because this is just a skill, so you don't even have to. The cool thing about this card is that you don't even have to play Toon World in your deck, and also this can't be hit by like MST, or maybe it can. This card is treated as Toon World. I actually do not know the ruling question, so don't quote me on that. Originally, I thought this card couldn't be hit by MST, but now I'm seeing that it literally says continuous spell. That is weird. I don't actually know. Okay, I don't know the ruling to that situation. I'm pretty sure, I guess, that they would rule it that you can destroy it with, like, a Wild Tornado. That's kind of strange. I don't know about destroying skills with backer destruction. But anyway, those are the skills there. But I still think that it's Toon World. It is the best skill for the Pegasus, just because it puts your Mimicat online immediately. And then you can take a look at the deck here. So you have Rogue Doll, Toon Alligator, which you have 2 of, Parrot Dragon, Dark Rabbit. So you can see just like a whole bunch of like trash basically. You have Toon Masked Sorcerer, which is like okay, Toon Mermaid, which is pretty good, Toon Summon Skull, which is pretty good, Relinquish, which might be pretty good if there's like Sphere Creep on this format. As it stands, you're always summoning Relinquish as like a -2 though, so that's not very good. And like, yeah, you're stealing a card, so that's pretty good, but I don't know, like this is the kind of thing where it's like you play the Pegasus cards and maybe you play like, I don't know, maybe you just play like these two because they're like the least bad ones, because they don't well, Toon Mermaid doesn't require your normal summons, you just special summon it, and then you just play like Toon Table of Contents and maybe 1 Toon World, and then you just play like, basically you just be playing the Pegasus ability just to activate Mimicat like every single turn, so that'd be kind of cool. Anyway, got the Relinquish, Toon Table of Contents, Toon Rollback, not that bad, 2 Toon Worlds, Yami, Sword of Deep-Seated, Toon Defense, Jar of Greed, Classic Jar of Greed, and Wild Tornado, which is in a lot of these decks. That's the main form backer destruction. What's interesting, though, is that because Wild Tornado is the most common form of backer removal, Stamping Destruction actually gets a lot worse unless you're hitting face-up cards, because you might accidentally hit a Wild Tornado, which then gets a plus, which is pretty crazy. So gotta be careful when you're attacking, or when you're blowing up those face-down cards with your own Wild Tornado, or not with Wild Tornado, because that destroys face-up, so with your Stamping Destruction. We'll look at the Yugi deck. This is probably the most underwhelming of all the decks in here. It has the least amount of like actually good cards, and the skills aren't too shabby either. Well, I guess not too shabby means that they're not that bad, but the skills are not very good. This one does have Fiend Jester, whatever that card's called, we'll take a look at, and that card's pretty cool, but other than that, it's not really anything to write home about. So we have Power of Dark, Destiny Draw, because see, this one, I don't know. I even asked that ruling, and that never came up, because this says Field Spell as well. I guess that you can MST this too. I'm not really sure on that ruling. I didn't really notice that. I didn't ask that in the last speed doing thing, because there's so few forms of backer removal that it's really tough. Like, I don't think you really would use them on like the skill cards if you could. But anyway, Destiny Draw, which is the exact same thing that it is in Duel Links. It's like okay in this game. And then Final Draw, activate the skill during your main phase. Once per turn, during your turn, you may place a counter on this card. Or on the skill. If this has 3 more counters on it, you would draw a card. You may search your deck for any cards. It's kind of like a different version of Destiny Draw. I think people are like overestimating how good Destiny Draw is in this format. It's much better in Duel Links when you have more powerful cards, but because in this game there aren't as many powerful cards comparatively, I think it's a little bit worse. So I think some people are overestimating that. Dark Magician for Olymp, Rogue Down, 2 of them, Dark Magician Girl. So you have, it's Legion of the Fiend Gesture. This card's pretty cool. It's a pretty nice card. It's I think there are 2 copies in here, so this deck's not like terrible. It's by far the worst one for both sealed and constructed. Maybe the Pegasus one is a little worse than sealed, but this card is really good, but it's kind of carrying the whole deck on its back. I'm not sure if it's really worth getting it just for that. Got some other cards here. Blue Dragon Summoner. Got some Dark Magician spells that are probably never going to work. You have Tribute Dow, Wonder Wand, Life Force Sword, Magician Circle, Magic Jammer. Worth noting that this has some of the only negation in the entire set with 7 tools of the Bandit and Magic Jammer. This Champion's Vigilance if you're playing with the variant cards, but for like generic negation, this is pretty much all you got. I think that 7 tools might be good, but I think that's kind of like a side deck card. Is there even side decking in this format? I don't know. We don't know the information about speed dueling. It's so frustrating. I would assume there's like 5 card side decks where 7 tools would be pretty good against these slower matchups, but I don't think Magic Jammer would be very good. These are the Duel Links rule set, so you only start with 4 cards in your hand, so Magic Jammer is kind of costly. And then we have this last character that has the Gravekeeper's cards that I will not try to pronounce because I never watched the anime. I don't know how it's pronounced. This one I think has the most potential to go from like a deck that a lot of people don't think is good to a deck that might actually be good, mainly because they have Gravekeeper's Recruiter. which is a very powerful card that saw a ton of play in the TCG. So we have, I don't even really know what her skills do. So we have this one. If your opponent's life point is more than twice yours, activate the skill. You may look at the top card. Okay, so that's terrible. Gravekeeper's Lot. If you lose, that switches to Gravekeeper. Millennium Necklace. Okay, so these skills aren't very good. So I don't know if you'd like actually play this character in Constructed, but you might use like the Gravekeeper cards. There's no there's no Sealed Tombs, although I think in this format Sealed Tombs probably wouldn't be that good, just because there aren't that many cards that actually interact with the graveyard. So you have Gravekeeper's Curse, Gravekeeper's Spear Soldier, 2 of those, Gravekeeper's Vassal, Gravekeeper's Chief, which is actually pretty good. Gravekeeper's Cannon Holder, not the best, but 700 is a lot more when your opponent only has 4,000. Gravekeeper's Assailant, probably one of the better cards in here. Got 2 of those. Gravekeeper's Priestess. So there's no Necro Valley in here, which is unsurprising. There's no Necro Valley. Well, they just added Necro Valley to Duel Links, but for a long time there wasn't Necro Valley. But the main reason you're getting this is this guy, Gravekeeper's Recruiters. There are 2 of those. Nope, there's only 1. So the main reason that you'd be playing Gravekeepers is basically for these 2 cards. These, I don't know, maybe you just play this as like an engine. Maybe there's something you can do when you combine like the Yugi cards and you combine these cards. You got spell caches going on there. I don't really know. It's kind of open-ended. There's only these 3 or 6 starter decks, whatever, right now, but I don't know, there's still like a lot of options, but I think that these cards are good. Floating effects are always good. Assailant kind of gets over big monsters. Is that better than Amazon's Heirloom? Probably not, but it's, I don't know, it's up for debate. Gravekeeper's Shaman, Gravekeeper's Oracle, like Catapult, I love that card. Gravekeeper's Steel, another reason to play Gravekeepers. Hidden Temples of Necro Valley, Seabix Blessing, terrible card. Blast Held by Tribute, Rite of Spirit is pretty good in this format, and Eye of Truth. So the thing about these speed dueling decks is I really hope at YCS Chicago they will have a constructed speed dueling event where you can use whatever cards you got from speed dueling and make your own decks. I am 90% sure that they're not going to do that, or if they are going to do that, it's going to be like a one-time thing where the sealed version of the format where you just get one of these starter decks. That'll just be run like all weekend. At the last YCS I went to, which was Pasadena, I believe, they just had like, it was completely free to sign up. You just got to borrow one of these decks and play in a little tournament, and I think that's what they're going to keep doing, just to get people playing the format so that people can invest. I would imagine that they wouldn't do too many constructed events for this until they release the first booster pack, and God knows what will be in that set. But I think it's cool. I want to play constructed speed dueling. I don't think a lot of other people will want to do that though, so I think Konami won't actually run that format, and if they do, it will be like a one-time deal until they get more cards. But I'm excited for speed dueling. I think it's kind of a cool side format. Obviously, I'm not going to spend as much time with speed dueling as I am in the TCG or Duel Links, neither of those. I mean, I don't play a ton of Duel Links these days, but I'm definitely going to play more Duel Links instead of speed dueling, just because the biggest problem with speed dueling, as I've said time and time again, is that who's going to buy cards for a format that's only side events at YCSs? That just doesn't make any sense to me. But let me know what you guys think about these ones. I will see you later. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Goodbye.